to her discussion that she couldn't really wait for. That's why she left her cup and her iPad. And I'll read one message here from Farouk. Okay, it's already taken. But Farouk says in Mombasa, keep money and success out of marriage, trust each other, and good partners in everything. Respect each other, because that will make the true love that brought you together to withstand any challenge. Janet.
All right, thank you so much for that, Hussein. A lot of people actually talking about respect. We're trying to look at the evolution of relationships and how they seemed to be healthier back then than they are now. Let's introduce you to my panelists. On my far right, we have James and Jane Ngeta, who've been married for almost 40 years. I think we have a lot we can learn from them. So they're going to give us their own views on perhaps what's kept them together for this long. And then we have Evelyn Mutua, who's a single lady. Are you single? Before I get into trouble with someone. She's a single lady in her 20s, and she'll talk about the challenges of trying to be in a relationship in one's 20s, especially in this day and age. We have Jennifer Karina. She's an author, Marriage Built to Last, and also a relationship coach who will take us through some of her own expertise on what she thinks constitutes a healthy marriage and relationship. And then finally, we have Ruth and Shadrach Wangara, who have been married about 2 years, but together for 6. And they'll also tell us about dating and relationships in one's 30s. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming. Before we delve into the discussion, a few tweets as well, just based on what people think constitutes a healthy relationship. At T. Romain G says it's about openness, trust, and most of all, love between one another. At Wafula_Wabaro says one that is built on the virtues of love and people taking pride in each other. And then we have B. Jarongo saying, I cherish trust and honesty. They say relationships without trust is like a car with flat tires. And finally, at Omut says, respect, support, and living one day at a time. So many people bringing up the respect factor. Again, let's also take a look at what people on the streets had to say about their own views on love and dating today.
Sahi hakuna love. Kwa sahi bila love, bila pesa, hiyo sio love. Alafu mostly siku hizi wasichana wamekuwa kama conmen. Unasikia on ladies.
Wa vijana wamekuwa wajaja sana. Na tena wasichana wa sahi wamependa pesa. Kama una pesa, mapenzi la. Mtu ni gold digger, ukimkubalia ndio ni gold digger. But wewe mwenyewe kwanza ni umeet huyo person, umjue in details, ndio ujue ni gold digger ama si gold digger. So kama wewe mwenyewe hujakubaliana na yeye akudig, hiyo yenye wanasema ni gold digger ni tofauti sana. Inategemea na character za mtu na venye umeapproach huyo mtu.
Unaweza kutana na dem kwa Facebook, ile sura ameweka ni ya kazini yake, ama ameweka tu profile pictures kutoka internet. Na wewe mwenyewe ukienda kukutana yeye unapata ni rika ya mamako.
Kile ya kitambo ilikuwa mzuri, mnakutana tu na kijana kuanga na simu. Unakutana tu na kijana, mnaongea, unamjua yeye kwa namna hii, anakuambia kwetu ni mahali fulani, unamwambia weekend uende nitembeza huko, unajua kwake, kwao. Anakuambia babangu ndio huyo, mamangu ndio huyo, hiku kwanga kitu ya kufichana, na unajua huyo mtu mkiongea na yeye akikwambia atakuoa na anakuoa. Haiku kwanga utanganyifu.
Nikikumbuka wakati yetu, si ati unajuana na msichana na inaanza tu hapo. Kwanza takusumbua sana, itabidi ukae hapo kwao nje umwe na umbu mingi sana kabla hajakubali kutoka kwa boma. Kwa mfano kama ya nyanya, unajua alikuwa anakaa kwa boma ya nyanya pale, ndio kitambo atoke pale, itakuchukua kama mwezi, uko na roho. Lakini ya sasa ni hapo kwa hapo, haina mambo mengi, so long as ameshaona wale hapo, you have the green light to go ahead.
Zamani unajua ilikuwa ujanja mingi sana, sasa siri, alafu wengi walikuwa wanaweka kamba, anaweka.
Wow, interesting views, and everyone on the panel is like, yep, that's true, that's true. I agree. I think for the two of you, having been married for so many years, how long has it been?
We've been together. We've
married 33 years.
Mm-hmm. But we met.
We dated for 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's all in total is 36 years.
Yeah.
Since we met.
All right. And I know obviously it's not that we're saying it's been easy, but how have you managed to stay together and committed for over 3 decades? What would you contribute that to?
Thank you, Janet. I think it all takes God. It takes God into this. Mm-hmm. And we need to trust each other. And you remember during our days, things were not as fast as they are these days. And it was real love. Now, realized I met her, or I saw her first time in 1979, May 1979, and we dated for 3 years. We got married in 1982, November. We'll be 33 next month. And it took me 3 years to date for her to agree to my proposal. And it took a whole year for me to take her to a movie.
Wow.
Yeah, it took a whole year.
Okay, but was that because of her playing hard to get, or was it just you thought that's chivalrous? She was playing hard
to get.
Why did you let him take 1 year to take you to a movie?
I think, you know, I had to be sure that this guy is genuine. This guy is real. You know, he's truthful in whatever he's telling me. And of course, we used to get a lot of advice from our parents. My mother would tell me, hey, watch these boys and all that. So that I was cautious. I was just cautious. Yeah. Am I doing the right thing? I mean, going to the movies with this fellow. We are going to be alone in the, you know, in the movie theaters them days. I think they're still the same. But yeah, I had to be sure that he's the right guy.
But
for
you
me.
loved her enough to want to wait. Did you know from the time you met her you were going to marry her? Was it one of those moments?
Yes, I had already made my mind. But she hadn't.
All right.
So, so I had also to prove that I'm able and capable of maintaining her. Because the first movie we went to was Nairobi Cinema. And those days at the balcony, it was 18 shillings.
Wow.
At the balcony. And the guys who didn't have money went to the, what do you call it? Stalls. So I had to prove that I have money, I can maintain you, I'm the right guy for you.
I can buy you a ticket for 18 shillings.
18 shillings. 36 shillings for both of us.
For both of you.
Yes.
Okay, great. We'll come back and ask you a few more questions. I think before I come to Evelyn, now let me come to the two of you. How long have you been married? How long have you been together?
A little over 6 years.
Okay.
Yes.
Is anything they're saying resonating? Shadrach, did it take you, did you immediately know Ruth was the one? Did you have to work hard to get her to say yes to you?
I think in another life, Ruth will have been born in the 60s.
Why? She played hard to get.
She was this traditional chick with a modern...
a modern twist.
Yeah, a modern twist to it. So, yeah, there was that thing. It was not as hard as Mr. Ngeta's, but there was a process. Actually, there was a process to it, which I appreciated. And it's something that I actually saw in her. There were those times when we interacted, because I met her through church. It was very interesting how we met. That's another story. But there's this time that we were in a fellowship and she spoke, and I'm like, wow, this chick knows what she wants, so this is the girl I've been looking for.
But was it challenging for you before then? Before you were with Ruth, was dating just generally complicated and difficult?
Oh, yes. It was confusing.
It was confusing. Why?
Let me tell you. Because we live in a modern time, the times of the 20s, somehow. And we are being pulled back by our parents who are in the age of Kina and Ngeta. So there's this conflict. What happened is, there was this date that the chick is the one who is initiating everything. And you end up getting confused, because you find yourself in a relationship and you're like, how did I get here? You know? And for me, it was like, there was this, every relationship had its own different characteristics. And I felt like I'm not in charge in most of these relationships. So I felt like I need to be the man to take the initiative, you know? As opposed to the chick being, you know, they're quite forward. But some were okay, you know, there were some which were hard, you know, the difficult relationships and those kind of things. But, you know, as a man, as a young man, it reaches a point that you want to settle. And you start thinking hard about life.
And then you found those qualities in Ruth. That's interesting. I'll wait to hear from you on that. Eden, you've heard now both sides. You're in your 20s.
Yes.
Early 20s.
Yes.
Okay. So how challenging is it trying to date right now in your early 20s? You've heard how, you know, Mr. Ngeta was persistent but patient. Shadrach also to some extent. Is it like that for you?
Well.
Men in their 20s.
Yeah. I think it's very different for us right now. There's a lot that's not the way it should be. There's a lot of stuff that's speaking into us right now as far as dating is concerned. I mean, I don't think we all nowadays you know, want that guy who will wait for me for 1 year. Sometimes you could find that boring, or like this guy, whatever, like, you know, get a life or something. But then it becomes very confusing because we also are not sure of what we want sometimes. So even when I know this is the man for me, or this is the kind of a man I want, I personally don't know who I am. Because for me to attract that kind of a person, I need to be that person to that.
Yeah, you need to. And you heard all the vox pops, how all the men were like, nowadays it's all about the wallet and what the guy can bring.
Sure.
Do you find that that's an accurate description?
Yes, to some extent, yes. It depends. It depends with where you are at in life, I think. Because also nowadays, well, I mean, dating a man who has money is an important thing in this life, to be very honest. But then, for me, that's not the main thing, because I think women are exposed nowadays. Ladies of my age drive cars, they have jobs, they're independent, they can run their own lives. But then that's another issue, because now by the time you get that person who will convince me, I'm like, why do I need a man and I have everything that I need that I think he would provide for me? So it's very
confusing. You've heard all the comments. You've counseled couples for a really long time. She's mentioned an interesting point where a lot of people feel like, I'm already validated, I'm fine, what else do I need? So what do you think has changed since the time of Mr. and Mrs. Ngeta to even Shadrach and Ruth and today, that is kind of putting a bit of a damper on successful relationships?
Thank you, Janet. I think relationships are important and always will be. Times will change and seasons will be different. As the seasons change, what happens is that the needs also change. In their days, there was no pressure. A relationship was about basically family ties, community acceptance. She said that her mother always said to her about, you know, how you relate. So there was so much accountability about who you date, how you date. Now that has continued changing because of industrialization, urbanization, and when people now are even going to school and now even abroad. So you're no longer where you have the family support. In the absence of family support, the financial aspect becomes very important because it's all that matters. I need to survive. It's about survival needs. And so when survival needs are in play, you no longer look at someone who comes from the right family. You're looking at someone who's got the money to support me for my needs. And then there's also the shift that money is so important, and if I have it already, why do I need a man? I can survive on my own. And so I think the values have also shifted when it comes to marriage and relationships.
What do you think we can borrow from this generation?
What we can borrow is one thing: take your time. Take your time.
People will say they don't have time.
Time is money, they say. We don't have time. But one of the things that I think we must borrow seriously is parental involvement. Parental involvement, where a girl can say, my mother told me. Mothers and fathers, parents ought to be involved in training their own in terms of how they ought to date and how they need to do that.
Do you agree?
Yes.
You do? You agree,
In my days, when I first had my first date, there's one thing I knew. I wasn't going to the movies. Neither was I going for a coffee date. That man had to come to my mother's house and say, my name is so-and-so. I'm taking your daughter out. And that's how my husband took me out on his first date. Now, there is accountability there. My parents know who I've gone out with. I can tell you he would dare not do anything funny because he's known. Today, you meet in the pubs, you meet on the streets, and you know, the funny thing is, it's not just there. You meet on the internet. You know, virtual dating is big time. And when you meet there, you've never known one another, you make out right there, you find your ways, and you're satisfied. And that's another reason they don't need no man, because they have it all, you know, wired up in their own way. online dating is big. You don't need to leave your house. You'll find that person right there online. You date. 3 months later, you're married.
Yeah. Your generation, there's really no parental involvement, is there?
Yeah, like I'm hearing everyone say, oh, my first date. I don't think my mom knew when I went for my first date. And I know she's watching, but I was safe, mom. I promise.
Yeah.
But then I think there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot that is speaking to us right now. By the time I sit down and I think, this guy, I'm checking him out, I'm like, does it look like he's serious? Maybe if he's consistent for a month, then I start thinking about him. Whereas he could have taken, a bit of time. Probably if they met my brother first, that would be easier, or my sister, and then that way my mom would know there's someone in the picture. And
someone who's
okay.
For Mr. and Mrs. Geta, what concerns you when you look at young relationships nowadays? What's the one thing that really stands out for you when you look at how younger people interact with each other and date?
You want to?
Go ahead.
Well, I think, like Jennifer said, the media has also played a major role in this, because and the social media rather, because they interact through that, and that we are parents, we are grandparents right now, and I remember when our daughter came and told us she wants to get married, and by the time she told us she wants to get married, we had already known the boyfriend for a long hog, and we knew even the parents. Now, today they come and say, like she's saying, she's quite truthful. She's saying we get to know each other through the media and bang and move on. Those days, and even now, we made sure our children don't just get through the media, social media, but we get to nurture them the way we were nurtured, because we have to give back to them what we got from our parents. Because I remember when I went to their place, and the mother was asking in Kikuyu, where is this boy from? And that was the first question. Where is this boy from? And she would say from Nakuru and da-da-da. And the same question my father asked me, where is this girl from? She's from Nairobi. Nairobi? No, Nairobi, no. No, they come from Murang'a, but they live in Nairobi. Oh.
So there was a lot of the parental...
they cared. Because I'll tell you, actually, we don't get married to this and this clan. We don't get married to this clan. So they'll guide you. But once in a while, you break your rules and go on.
All right.
You're guided.
Was it the same for you, parents getting involved, or is that sounding a bit alien? Like you just kind of did your own thing, figured out that you loved each other, and then kind of went and said, oh, I've met someone who I'm going to marry.
Okay, actually, the parents were involved, but not from the get-go. Because what happened with us is that we were friends first for a long time, for about 7 months or something, before he finally asked me out. And that's the time when I was very close with my dad. So I did tell him that there was someone, and actually I made sure that there's a way they actually met even before he had asked me out, because there's a way there are telltale signs. It reached a point I knew that this might go somewhere, although at the beginning I really didn't think. I was actually quite dismissive about the whole thing.
He's looking at you remembering those days. All right.
And yes, and there's still the question of, like Mr. and Mrs. Ngeta says, my parents asked, where is he from, who is he, who are his parents, does he have brothers and sisters? In our, where I come from, rather, in our family also faith counts. Like what faith is
does he go to church? All right. We have to take a short break and come back, and probably the other thing we want to explore is some of the maybe challenges of dating across the different generations, and maybe, again, how we can encourage healthier relationships, because those are few and far between nowadays, and of course how to involve parents. Remember to talk to us using the hashtag MondaySpecialKE on Twitter, and text us on 224. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with Monday Special, where we're talking about dating and the evolution of relationships. During the break, very interesting discussions. Before we even get that, there's some people who are asking Mr. and Mrs. Geta, they're saying, you look so young, and yet you've been married for 33 years. So when exactly, how old were you when you get married?
I think we actually age mates. We were 21.
21.
21.
Okay.
But we'd done college.
Yeah.
We were working.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
It worked out pretty well.
Pretty well.
All right.
Yes.
And would you allow your child at 21 to get married today?
Well, if she's through college and everything, and through studies, and of course, why not? Because the advantage here is you grow with the children.
Okay.
You know, you are young, and the children have come, and there you are growing up with them. You're doing all sorts of games.
Yeah.
And the children also get to understand you as one of their partners.
Yeah.
When we were growing up, you hear your daddy's car coming and you take off because there was no
connection.
There wasn't.
Yeah. You just hesitated when asked if you would allow your child to get married at 21. Why is that?
Okay. 21 today, I think is a bit young. Today, not back then, because they're just finishing college and everything. But if they're done with college and they're settled and they feel ready, and they have had a relationship that has lasted a while, then it's okay. They're ready to go.
You're what, 23?
Yeah.
Do you feel like if you met the right person today, tomorrow, you would get married, or are you the kind of person who's like, no, I need to give it time?
Maybe in 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be ready.
Why 2 years? Because
I have stuff I want to achieve before I become someone's wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
When is the right age to get married, do you think?
I'm listening to this and I'm asking myself, really, when is the right age? One of the things that I do know is that life is about developmental stages. And when you're 20, you're actually a teenager. You have not, teens finish at 19, but studies say that teenage goes up to 23. So you are an adult, but a teen. So when you get into this marriage, there is too much drama in the beginning. So when is the right age? It depends on the maturity of every individual. And every individual's maturity comes at different stages. However, I think an average of 25 would be a good ideal.
Okay.
Yes.
You were how old?
I was 20 years old.
Okay.
I used to cry like a baby.
Really?
I mean, every little thing made me cry.
Yeah.
If I were to do it all over again, I wouldn't get married at 20.
Okay.
I would want to be a little more mature.
Right.
And that's one thing I told my children. You've got to go through school. Do your masters, mature, and get married.
Okay.
And they got married in the 30s.
However, Jennifer, I'm just wondering, don't you think when we say that we need to go through life's developmental issues, then we give it a space? Everybody now has an excuse, like she's saying she needs to develop her career. Well, I'm thinking the way they did it traditionally, a girl finishes her college and gets married, really is ideal, because these days I feel like most of the men like to leave the women hanging, you're just coming out of college excited, you're working and you're dating this guy. After 3 years it's over, then you get into another thing and you're dating this person, it's over. Before you know it, you're 28 or 30. And even that psychologically or even physically is not very healthy. I remember my mother used to tell my sister and I, you girls, you need to do the childbirth thing before you're 35. And I just had my last one recently, and believe you me, it was difficult. So it's good. At least when I had the first one, it was easier.
Yeah.
So there's all that. I don't know. I am totally for, if people can get married at 23, 24,
the better. As opposed to waiting, and then before you know it, you're 30, 35, and you're still not married.
And also, Janet, you see, the minute you wait until you finish your thing, then you get into marriage. This guy comes in, you have already your vehicle, your house, and he comes in, he has his. Then there isn't that togetherness. But when you come in and start looking, fending for yourselves, then you feel that togetherness, that this glass belongs to us. We came here, we didn't have any glass, we didn't have a stool, but we've bought these seats, this furniture, the bed. You feel ownership. You have that pride of owning that particular item. I come in, you have your apartment, you have a vehicle, you have a nice salary. So who am I? And maybe I'm doing some little something. I mean,
actually, I also wanted to say that you're saying that you feel like you're independent and you can do your thing. Well, really, I know I've been to many bridal showers and many chamas, and believe you me, not all women who have developed their careers and have a lot of money are actually happy. Some of them are actually very lonely, and they say they actually encourage others who like to get married and to try and work out their marriages. Right?
Even if they're younger.
Even if they're younger, yes.
What would you say to that? Is there a reason why maybe it looks like, and I could be wrong, but just based on what's coming out, a man would either be daunted or intimidated with trying to build a life with a woman who already has it figured out? Is that something that scares men?
Yeah. Obviously it does. Because as a man, is this societal thing that you're the head of the house. How can you be a head of a house, somebody riding a Range Rover and Yoko with a Toyota? So that is intimidating, yes. And to some extent, it actually leads a man to, you hear women say, men are not there these days. Men are there, but the man that you want, the same caliber in terms of financial status and everything, is not there. There's something I wanted to say. The society has a big role to play when it comes to the generations. Like in your generation, it was different because in your generation the clan was involved. And since the clan was involved, even getting married younger was easier. Okay? So this family involvement. In fact, I see it with the Asian community, the Indians. The family is so much involved in the marriage process. That's why even until to date, their tradition still stands. The young, they marry young. I've had discussions with Indians and I've seen that happening. In our situation, like in our age, if you look at the age group, we got married at in our 30s, in our early 30s. We are still in early 30s. we got married around that time. But there's a pressure or a process that is created by the society. You guys have heard of the Ngurarios and the Urashios. Man, wedding became it became a process. You have to go through several visits before a community thing. As much as it was a community thing, I want to blame the older generation. And
how come? For turning it into a process.
Leave alone that. The young guys have been left out. I mean, we have been thrown in the deep end. We are actually the ones who do our Gurarios, our Russias. Our parents, they help us, they come and do the discussions, but the money will have to come from your pockets. In the past, that was different. Your father was the one doing those things. But these days, the young guy is the one who initiates the whole process. And so the element of money is a big thing. So if you don't have the money, you delay the process.
Interesting. I've heard that before, actually. So I don't know whether you can address it before
I think that goes with family. It depends with your family, what your dad wants to do for you. But I think the parents should really be involved in the money aspect, in helping. Even in the long days, the olden days, the parents come together. Hey, my son is getting married, my daughter is getting married, what do we do? But they shouldn't really let the boy do everything.
But I do hear you, that's happening quite a bit.
And all that, it will be strenuous for you. So that when you get to your home now, your pocket is empty and they want a big wallet, as you had before. So it's better for the parents to get involved and help out the child.
How do you relay that if you don't see it happening? Do you just sit down with your parents and just tell them we need you to be involved? Or for you, would that be cowardly as a man to sit down?
It should come from the parents.
It should be initiated by the parents.
I'm saying, I'm just thinking, I think maybe he's talking about the generally, some men actually are left in the deep end, but there are parents who help partially, and they really play a big role. Like I would tell you for sure, if my father-in-law wasn't involved, it would have been chaos. Chaos. Downhill.
Sometimes it happens. What you're saying, it does happen. Especially if the father is not really for that marriage. Maybe he doesn't like where the girl you are marrying or the family, then he will take a back seat, which is not really good because this is your wife. We as parents should not interfere because you've come and told me you want to marry this girl. I've vetted and we've discussed with you, and now that's your home. I should not interfere as long as, of course, if she comes drunk and I'll tell her about smoking, and I'll tell you, my son, I think here there's a problem. But if you bring a nice, presentable girl, surely, why would I want to interfere? You see? So it also depends, like she says, it depends from family to family. But I would rather come in and help.
We don't have a lot of time. I'll just try and move. Another very key issue is communication. In your days, it was what? Love letters? Phone booth.
Phone booth.
Phone booth. Okay.
You go and queue at Kencom.
Yeah.
There were several phone booths there outside Kencom and at Kenya Cinema. So you go with some coins and fortunately they had a telephone in their house.
Yeah.
So I'll go there and tell her I'm waiting for you at a certain pub, a restaurant, and I'm wearing these jeans and of course.
Not pub.
No, not pub. Restaurant. Restaurant.
At a restaurant.
At a restaurant. So we used to communicate with phones.
Yeah.
And they were effective. Very effective.
Letters?
Yes.
Even letters.
Letters, yes, but you see, we were in town.
Phones mostly.
But phones more.
Yeah. And what do you think about communication? Now that's literally, but in terms of just communication and how couples communicate nowadays, is that also an issue that's also leading to the breakdown of relationships? Big issue.
That's a big issue.
Was communication very key in developing your relationship?
It was.
Okay, being open with each other.
You see, we were open.
Yeah.
Now, for this generation, they're all on phones. And I was talking to her earlier, and I said, when we were in the reception, we were several of us, and each one of them were on their phones. And I said, you guys, drop down your phones.
Yeah.
Let's talk. Now I said, assuming you've been out the whole day, you've come home, you're in the sitting room, and you're sitting, everybody is on their phone, Facebook, Twitter, and all this. What do you call this? Tube, whatever.
YouTube, Instagram, yeah.
Yeah. And there's no time that you ever sit down and ask, how was your day? Do you have any problem? What are you going through? Or, and you vent out. But everybody, you're on WhatsApp, and your mom is in the kitchen, you're WhatsApping her. Your husband is,
that's an issue though, I would say, for sure. In your 20s, everyone's here. Yeah.
I think there's a good and bad thing with our access to the internet and the social media. We get to, I think too much of everything is bad, because I think we have so much of avenues for us to communicate. Sometimes I don't have to call someone and tell them what I really want to tell them. I can just WhatsApp you. I don't have to see you to tell you what I really wanted to tell you. And sometimes if it's in a love relationship where a guy would like to propose to a lady, perhaps, sometimes it's even done online, like I just Instagram you up with I just tell you I like you, and then I'm like, oh my god, he likes me, and then that's it, it's done, it's over. Then the next time we're somewhere having fun, there's no process. And I think for me that's a bit lack of respect, because sometimes you don't know who I am and what I stand for. I mean, why would you assume that the fact that I have an iPhone 6 and you can see that I can do FaceTime and whatever, I mean, it's given that you should have access to me as a single lady. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And that notion because she is single or he is single, I mean, he should be able to accept anything that I tell him, like, you should enjoy that I'm interested in you. And I know probably a lot of inboxes will come through because everyone has said I'm very single. Not searching,
good luck to you, by the way.
Amen.
I want to, okay.
I think communication is very important.
And for you, how much has it helped your relationship?
Well, I'll let him go first. Gone with the challenge in communication.
Actually, in a situation, we evolved. We kind of like you're in your area, and then we came to, now we're in the FaceTime and the Instagram generation. Because we started off, even in high school, I remember we used to do letters. And then we during campus, we did the phones.
We were in the transition period.
We actually transitioned into where we are right now. But in our situation, it was more of SMS coming from her. She's a very good communicator. I am not. I think that was a strength that we are now complementing each other on.
Are you getting better?
I'm getting better. But I can tell you that it's very important. I actually appreciate that in a relationship. Communication is key, because that's how you learn somebody else. That's how you get to know what the other person is thinking. If you continue communicating like that over and over again, over the years, that's how you hear Mr. Ngeta and Mrs. Ngeta. They finish their own sentences. I mean, he starts a sentence, she finishes it. Because you guys have been communicating over the years. You have gelled so well that it's a very key component. That's what I was saying.
Okay. Your comments on communication before we try and get your final comments.
Well, I would say communication is really one of the foundations of relationships. And communication by the phone was excellent, but by letter was even more exciting. I have a lot of written communication. Over the years, I have a whole suitcase of all the letters, love letters that I ever received. And it is so good. Now, today, I feel that communication has been taken to another new level, and it is the reason that relationships are not working, because instead of being positive, it is used against the relationship. For example, you checking on your spouse's phone every day, that's a form of communication. You check the Facebook page, another form of communication. You find them just having a chat with someone, and you assume that there is a relationship, which necessarily is not the case. So I would say, as much as communication is so important in relationship, the new technology communication has actually become a stumbling block to relationships and causing a lot of problems. Not that it's necessarily what you see, you just imagine it further. And two, how can you communicate when everyone is, on the phone, just as Mr. Ngeta has just said? Everyone is so fixated on the phone, and the phone has also become the tool that brings joy, fulfillment, and satisfaction to the individual in the relationship. So they're actually communicating with others, but you are together. And so as a couple, you find that there is no communication here. Yet everyone is fulfilled because they are communicating through that gadget. So it becomes a real challenge.
You have a comment? All right.
Yes. I think communication is key, because we have purposed to take time out and go for date nights on some days, and then just have time where we can be able to communicate. Because I read your blog one time, we were talking about your husband doesn't really know the things that are happening inside of you right now as you're expecting your baby, and I was thinking, actually, I'm sure you took time after that to tell him, and so that he's also part of it. Because I realized if you don't communicate, one can be in mass and the other one, and it can be completely haywire
and just cause a breakdown.
However, on the technology, it's good to be tech savvy, but I feel like some people are actually abusing it. Can you imagine somebody breaking up with somebody over an SMS or a WhatsApp message? I think that is so cruel.
It is. And it's happening a lot. Okay, we really have to move along. We've literally just come to the end. Some people are saying that in your generation, for Mrs. Karina and Mr. and Mrs. Ngeta, right now they feel like there's a pressure where you push people or push your children into marrying certain tribes or someone from a certain denomination. What are your comments on that?
I will say that was the best and perfect marriage, and that was how it was tailored. Marriage was basically not just about love. It was about a genealogy.
Okay, but this is about today. Pushing them. Okay,
and
but
so
now
we cannot be able to remove from what we know. So ideally now, if parental influence was bigger on who you end up with, would have less divorces and happier relationships. Because when they hook up, because they just hook up, they don't know where that person comes from.
So, okay, that's interesting. So the background is important, but not necessarily maybe which region they come from.
Not what region, not region.
But the background, and the fact that we ignore it means that we've assumed, oh, well, they're happy, they're married, and then they come back and say, we're not happy anymore. Because you weren't as involved as... So the parental role is very crucial.
Very crucial.
Yeah.
It's not about what region you come from, but I must underline that there are some cultural differences that are irreconcilable. So because of such issues, if you do get into that kind of an arrangement, the challenges will be higher than any other relationship. So as long as you're ready and prepared for that, it is fine.
All right. Another very quick question is, I know it's different from couple to couple, but resolving conflicts, whether it's infidelity or misunderstanding, your thoughts on that, especially today.
Conflict is inevitable, and conflict is a process of life. Everyone must disagree about something. It is not about the conflict, but the way that you resolve it, the attitude that you have towards resolving the conflict.
How did you, as couples, maybe starting with you, how have you resolved conflict over the years?
I think it's just a matter of understanding each other. And once you understand and get to trust each other, and you see my phone ringing and there's Janet calling, she doesn't have to get worked up because she knows me. She knows where I stand. I'm a businessman in this city or wherever, and I have clientele, different types of clientele. So she has to understand that I'm about to receive all sorts of phones. Same here. If she gets a phone from Joseph or somebody, I don't have to get worked up and ask her, who is this Joseph?
So that also comes down to trust.
Trust.
And avoiding.
Trust.
And communication. Open communication. Being open with each other. If you're upset about something, say it, speak about it, discuss and finish. But tomorrow don't say, you remember yesterday it was like this, like that. Just finish. And if you really can't do it between yourselves, get a friend or pastor.
And I heard you saying, but back in the day you would involve a much bigger group of people to resolve conflict.
Absolutely.
And that, I don't know if that works nowadays. People feel like, no, it's me and her.
The problem is even the older generation, our age mates today, are too hyper also. So they don't have that time. You know.
It's just interesting to hear that the older generation are hyper. I'm just saying, for us, actually, we believe God is the center of this marriage, right? We've done it before where we're not involving God, and it was just fireworks, and even in our separate lives before. So right now, I feel like when you put God in the middle of it all, depending on what faith you are, we're Christians, so that works for us a lot, because even you will hold back, and I'll think, okay, Ruth, just hold back, think about this a little. Do not be all emotional about it, right? Because even, I mean, somebody, if you let your emotion reign you, then you become a wreck. So I strongly advocate for God being in it. There's a friend of mine who says, you have to pray together. When you pray together, you grow together. When you do that, then even while you're thinking about it, when you're in the conflict, you will remember some of those things. You will remember some of them.
We have to completely get closing comments, but yes, you wanted to add something.
Yeah, having God in the middle of it all is very, very important. And being believers in Jesus, we know that God comes before everything. So you consult together, and you must have like I told you earlier in the day, you must have a guidance, which is the Bible, the Word of God. What does it say about marriage? What does it say about this? Can we incorporate all that so that we can move together, as a team, being led by the light, which is God, in Jesus. So that is very important for those who believe in the Christian faith, because we have different
faiths. Evelyn, what have you learned from what everyone here is saying?
First of all, maybe I would say there's a lot of assumptions that are made about this young generation, literally, like listening to your comments. And I think that's one thing this generation does not flow with a lot with our parents and the older generation. Yeah, it's true. A lot that is said is true, that, we have the internet, it's messing us up. I mean, the reality is, that generation was that generation, and this generation is this generation. The things that we go through day to day as a person myself is not probably what they go through as my parents. You know what I mean? So, I mean, for us, I think my own view about young people and dating and relationships and hopefully marriage is, it's very important for us to understand who we are as a person. Because when I know who I am as Evelyn, as whoever, then how I deal with people and how I will handle my supposedly boyfriend or whoever who's trying to be my friend is very different, and I'll treat them with respect, knowing that they are a person by their own, they're entitled to their own opinions, they are who they are, that's the person that they are. Then I'll know how to treat them, then I'll know how to handle them with care and respect. And
I see your point. Just getting to know yourself just makes you healthier for a relationship. And a lot of young people, I don't think, are doing that enough.
You know how there's a commandment that says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. How can I then love my neighbor if I don't love myself? And loving myself does not mean taking myself, for holiday, selfies, malindi, whatever. It's really loving and respecting myself.
Where are you in respect to that journey? Do you know who you are?
Yes.
As Evelyn, you're aware?
Absolutely. And there's a lot of pressure sometimes that, Evelyn, now you're almost 24, 25, so what's going on? My mom questions like this. I don't have to succumb to anyone's pressure, because I know I am on my own journey. You know, there's a way I've been brought up, there's what I want to achieve, just to be in that space for. This is where I am at, guys, to be very honest. I don't have to do this because that worked for you, but then you find a way of being on the right path.
All right, we have to get closing comments, but another quick question is, nowadays people, and you mentioned this, people always think of, I have an easy way out. What would you advise younger couples who are thinking, even if this doesn't work out, at least there's divorce? And I know, like Mrs. Karina was saying, in your days there was nothing like, there's nothing like that. So as you give us your winding comments, what are your thoughts on how couples can think about being in it for the long haul, as opposed to seeing it as a short-term way and looking at exit plans?
Perseverance.
Okay.
Know why you went into the relationship and into marriage in the first place. Remember your vows, whichever way you made them, at the DC's office or in church. And most of them are made in church, whether in the garden or whatever. It's in the church concept, before a pastor, before the whole crowd. Remember why, and you know why you went that far. Do you want to go there 3 months later, you're like, I don't think I did the right thing? No. You must go into it knowing that it is for kids. As we used to say, it's for kids. Not for 3 months, not for 2 months. If he has a fat wallet, I know I'll get alimony and all those things. No. Just go with the mindset that it's meant to last.
All right. Thank you so much.
Meant to last.
Like she says, God hates divorce. And we must re-emphasize this matter to the younger generation. And this will also go, this help will also come from you, the media. I have a beef with you guys.
Okay.
The content that you air on TV sometimes does not augur well with this generation. The soap operas that you keep showing, and these guys are divorcing, those guys are acting. But my daughter here thinks it's a true act of life. And the divorce, the come in, the exit clause is there. It's open. The door is ajar. So I think let's also mentor these people. You as media, Kina Hussein and
yes,
you as
Hussein,
media, please. Let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what happened the other day. And somebody was telling us on Saturday, he found children singing a song in an estate. He was driving through an estate and said, "Trans condoms," because they've had it on TV. Then they don't know what they're talking about. So this is the kind of crap that is getting into our children. You're expecting a baby. If you want her or him to go through that, please, media, just censor what you are.
Hussein, censor what you
Hussein.
Thank you for that, the positive reinforcement. Very quickly, Vin, I know you've already made your comments. Is that also true? The media kind of depicts a whole different way of relationships?
Yes, yes, and I would say the internet a bit more. What I would say as my final comments would be, there is hope, single people. There is hope in this marriage vibes. There's a lot of hope. I think we need to be very respectful to our parents and listen to what they tell us, because most of the time they are actually right, whether we like it or not. Even through dating, I don't have to introduce my boyfriend or my fiancé when maybe he puts a ring on it. I know we find that a lot of work, and it's because we don't like commitment. We are very scared. We are like, this guy, I'm not very sure about who they are and whatever. But then there's a lot of hope. Make sure by the time you get into a relationship or when you are dating someone, you understand who you are, like I said, and then I think pretty much it flows from there.
All right.
Yeah, it really does. Because then when you don't know what my friend will tell me, what my cousin will tell me, I'll take that into consideration, and then I'll end up with 40.
And things are fake, Thank you. But you're very mature for your age, which is great, so all the best to you. Before we hear from Mrs. Karina, your winding thoughts, Ruth and Shadrach?
I'd like to echo what Mrs. Ngeta said. I like the name Ngeta. It reminds me of those days I used to You must be in security. Anyway, I like what you said, and I'm gonna put it in one word: burn your bridges. As you get to your marriage, burn your bridges. Burn your bridges with your exes. Burn your bridges with your parents also, because like what the Bible says in Genesis 2:24, it says a woman and a man shall leave his father and mother and actually go. What actually it means, and this is what my father emphasized to me, is that you actually create your own society within that context. So you actually start a family. So you do not have to carry the baggage of your background, because that is actually the basis of conflict in most cases. In our family we always do things like this. In our family we always do things like this. Now you come back and say, let's create rules around ourselves. Let's create our own thing. So that is one. The other thing about young people feeling like
there's an exit.
The commitment thing, because there's a two sides to this coin. The commitment aspect is, you feel like I've seen so many people getting affected, divorces or people getting killed in marriages, you know, those kind of things. There's that fear, and then there's that fear of, is she the one? That element of is she the one is one of the biggest things right now. So people, like, you take so much time to propose to a woman because of that. There's a process of getting married, there's a big wedding you have to do, and then there's a family you have to start, then you have to forget and forfeit all this freedom.
So how do you address that? Just trust your gut? Because you're saying all those things.
Burn your bridges.
Burn your bridges.
Okay, means
that's deep.
You go to a place and you don't know exactly how that area is going to be. But for you, you don't want to go back to Egypt, right? So you actually literally burn your bridges. So that means there's no way back. So you have to go.
All right, good one. All right, Ruth.
Actually, when Shadrach proposed, he told me that, you know, I have taken time to think about this, and I am doing this, and therefore, things like divorce, the word divorce does not exist to us. So we decided, and he told me, are you ready for this? If we're doing this, we're doing the whole 9 years. We're not stopping in the middle and looking for an exit plan, as we were saying during the break. And we decided we want to bring up our children in our family. And again, I just want to say something, Evelyn, as much as you're on a journey to learn yourself, once you get married, you will learn that through experience that you will have sometimes to bend over backwards, and whatever it is that you think about yourself, you may have to compromise, so and accommodate the other person, right? And my parting shot would be, marriage is sweet. I know so many ladies, even in bridal showers and whatnot, who preach that marriage is sour, it's sweet and sour, it's like a prison and whatnot. Yes, it has its ups and downs. But I take some of my parents were married for 30 years, and I know another couple that have been married for, we just went for the Mr. and Mrs. Mulungas, if they're watching, 30 years, Mr. and Mrs. Karanja, another 35 years, something.
So it can be sweet.
Yeah, it can be sweet. How did they do it? Because I was telling myself, if my mother did it, I can also be able to do it. And not to say that they did not have difficulties. They did. And I remember some of them. But they braved it. So, I
what she said, perseverance.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Finally, Mrs. Karina, briefly.
Finally, I would want to say I've been in it 38 years and I wouldn't do it differently. Marriage is beautiful. I want to say that if you're thinking about getting married and finding to be served and finding to be fulfilled, you might be going in the wrong direction. Marriage is about service, not what you can get, but what you can give. So if you go into it for what you can give, then you will be happy, because whatever you get, you will take it with a lot of thanksgiving. I want to say that Evelyn has talked about knowing herself, and that's marvelous. The reason that you want to know yourself is that you may thrive, but it's as you know yourself and other young ones, it's so that when you know who you are, you know your values, what are your traditions, what are your customs, what do you do, who are you? Because many times young people think, when I know myself, I know my rights, I'll stand up for my rights, and you know, nobody is gonna shake me. It's not about that. Marriage is a place to come and to demand nothing. And that is why marriage is not working, because of unrealistic expectations. Have no expectations. I like what Shadrach has shared. Absolutely great. And one of the things that I would say is that commitment is everything. Marriage is a decision. It's not about I'm so much in love I can't live with this person. It's a decision you make, and it is a lifetime decision. Two, it's contentment. There are going to be very many beautiful girls out there, very many handsome men, but you have made a commitment for better, for worse, in sickness and in health. I'm sticking in this thing.
Okay.
And I want to say that marriage is even more beautiful when you get to my level and see your grandchildren.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
okay.
my goodness. It is worth every bit of it.
I mean, we could go on and on, but we are completely out of time. I want to thank you all for your amazing insight into relationships and wishing all of you the best, obviously. Thank you so much for coming. We're winding up in just a few minutes. Hussein Mohammed will join me on set just now to get some of your feedback before we say goodnight. So stay with Monday Special. And welcome back. We're about to say goodnight, but first we'd love to look at some of your feedback based on the discussion we've had tonight. Let's see if we can bring up some tweets before we read some text messages. The first one is from Eric Kogi, who says, young couples must be committed to their new families instead of being idle with friends. Okay. Alfred Mutua 99 says, relationships in these days, I guess, need soberness or sobriety and a lot of patience or consultation. Okay. At Caleb Cheriot.
You don't want me to read it again?
Yeah, no, it's okay. You read the SMS. More and more such talks will help heal, inspire, and revive the evolved relationships.
You don't want to fight with Janet now.
And Dr. Lumana says, parents have no time for their children nowadays, and neither are children available for advice, which has come up a lot in this discussion. And then we have at Murugi Miss Candy, we all dread successful marriages. Let's stick to the old ways. It never hurts. Okay. And this is the last one. At Shay Bahati says, I think women submit to what they get from men. Give love, she submits to love, and vice versa. Very nice feedback. You can now talk.
Okay. She's doing this because you're not going to see her here for a while. Now, where two or more people meet, there must be a leader. Traditionally, men used to be the undisputed leader backed by the economic advantage. The economic gap between men and women is closing up, leading to an attempt by men to maintain the status quo, an attempt, the result of which leads to family disintegration. And Goshi Mbogwa from Gizunguri, Kiambu says, reality has it that values in relationships have shifted, thus turning relationships from cultural to professional affairs.
Ow, I just felt something.
Okay.
Joking. But kidding, I'm kidding. That's just my way of saying it.
How not you react to that? I don't know.
I was just going to say it's going to be so sad not to see you for a couple of months. It is my last show before I head out on maternity leave. Jackie Maribe is going to take over from me on Monday Special. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to make it for us to officially hand over. Hussein has to catch his breath. So glad I did that. That's to pay back for everything you've ever done for me and to make you remember me for the next 3 months. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be, I'll miss being here. But, of course, I'll see you all in a few months.
Okay, scared.
Breathe.
Honestly scared.
I know, that was the plan.
But it's okay. What do I say now? All right, Janet is leaving for a while, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And she's always made you to believe that I'm the bad person here. I want to prove that I'm not, and the Citizen TV family is not, and this is why. All right?
Oh my! Oh, and Jackie's here! Oh my goodness!
This is our plan. This is their plan, and if anything,
oh my goodness!
Should I sing?
Don't thank me and don't get emotional. I don't know how to handle that. So Jackie can handle that. I'm gonna step away.
This is the sweet. Oh, hello, my love. All the best. Thank you so much. This is the night. I am so pleasantly. The panel is like, yeah, we're all eating cake today. Oh my goodness, Jackie, I can't think of anyone better today.
Should I step away? Do you still need me here? This is too.
It's okay.
Too whatever for me. You know. I'll
Jackie is the only one I think who can handle Hussein. So I'm so glad you're going to do this show.
I'm so ready.
You're so ready.
I'm so ready. But of course, it will be an honor and a pleasure to hold brief for you.
Oh, thank you.
All the very best on behalf of the newsroom and all the anchors, and of course the entire Citizen TV family, and Hussein, who is running away.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
Hussein, come stand here.
This is amazing.
Hussein.
No, this is just too difficult for me. This is.
And it says, are you emotional?
No, I'm not. I don't know where the emotions are coming from you two. It's actually crying. I don't understand why.
Downloading 98%, which is pretty true. That's very accurate. And a lot of people, of course, you've been seeing, like, she's so pregnant, why is she? I think it's important, Jackie, for people to know it's okay to work until when you have energy. Some of the backlash has been really unnecessary, but a lot of people also just, embracing it. So thank you all. Thank you so much, Jackie.
You're welcome.
I'm very happy to be handing over to Hussein and Jackie. I'll miss you all, and yeah, God willing, we'll be back here in a few months.
Right.
And, all right, have a good night.
Good night, I'm Mohammed.
I'm Janet Bogwan Dishu.
Dishu, okay.
And I'm Jackie Maribe. Good night.
All right, good night.